Now we have the middle schoolers in here. This is, yay, go 6 through 8. I think this is, you haven't been in this room all day. So this is very special to have you guys here, including my 6th grader, Evie Wags. I'm Chelsea Gilmore. I'm Chelsea Gilmore. I also have a 10th grader. I'm on the board at GALA, the Friends of GALA. We are friends of yours. And I'm the VP of External Communications. But today, as you guys know, we are here to talk to amazing women. I'm going to introduce 3 amazing women, then I'm going to ask you what they all have in common. And you guys are going to have to figure it out based on my introduction. We have about an hour and 5 minutes together, and I expect some questions. So think about what you want to ask these amazing women in front of you. Mostly because this could be you one day. I believe the reason why you're at GALA is because you're ambitious and you're driven, and YWCC is about showing you this could be you one day on stage. Even interviewing Evie, just like Evie's mom. Okay, I'm going to start with Katie Barron here in the green. Katie is the Senior Vice President of Creative at Sony Pictures Animation. Yes, you have definitely seen some of her movies. Raise your hand if you've seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. All right. And also Spider-Man Across the Universe. All right, that's just to name a few. Okay. Next, I have Debbie Franchi, okay? She has 2 names. 2 titles after her names that are so very cool. Founder and CEO. That means she is the big boss. Who wants to be the big boss? Okay, I like it. She's founder and CEO of CDS Capital Group, okay? I'm going to say stuff that's going to sound complicated, and afterwards I'm going to simplify this. That is a national leader in impacting investing with $1.48 billion. Okay? That amount of money Debbie's in charge of, and she's going to tell us how she spends it and how she actually helps the community by engaging the private sector in the battle against poverty. So, wow. She has real clear purpose, even though she is in charge of that much money. We cannot wait to hear about that. Next, I have Naomi Raddon. Okay, raise your hand if you've ever heard of a Black Hawk helicopter. Yeah, we mean the big helicopters. If you see helicopters in movies, chances are it's a Black Hawk because it's the coolest helicopter in the sky. Well, not only does Naomi fly one, her role is a SIC. Did I pronounce that right? A SIC, okay. That means she's second in command of an entire fleet flying Black Hawk helicopters. But guess what she's doing while she's flying these helicopters? Anyone want to take a guess? She's fighting fires, okay? Okay, we're going to get into this, but when we had very bad fires, as you all know, we're going to talk about this. But while we were watching the news, we saw a lot of aircraft in the sky fighting those fires. And chances are we saw Naomi flying one of those helicopters. So thank you, Naomi. So I'll start with Naomi. You're a helicopter pilot. We're going to have a conversation today kind of about who you all were when you were younger and then who you are as professional gals. Before we get started, I asked you guys all a question. What do you think all these women have in common? Anyone want to guess? Okay, we have a hand up over there. You can yell it. Yes, good. Yeah, okay. Any other things stick out to people? Yes.
They're all important.
Yes, they're all important. Yes. Yeah?
They all made good contributions to society.
Oh, I love it, guys. Good contributions to society. Oh, one more. Yes. What? They're all women. And you know what else they are? They're all trailblazers. Because keep in mind while we talk, they are all leaders in fields where there still are not as many women. They are often in rooms where they're the only women, in fact. So we're going to sort of talk about that today, too. And look at all they've accomplished. So let's start with Naomi. We'll just quickly start. There's a trend on TikTok called Coffee with Your Younger Self. Now, if you met your younger self at coffee and you were like, yeah, I fly Black Hawk helicopters, what would your younger self say to you? Where did you start? Like, and we'll go down and hear from each of you. So we'll keep it,
What would I say to my younger self?
Yeah.
I would say that, because I didn't know that I wanted to be a Black Hawk pilot when I was younger, but I think that I would say, get to know yourself. And I feel like we're all born with certain gifts, but we don't always know what those are. Sometimes naturally things come to us, like we're really good at sports, or we're really good at singing or playing an instrument, or good at numbers, or whatever it is. And I think for me, it took a long time to figure that out. So I had a lot of different jobs, and I tried a lot of different things, and I felt like I was good at a lot of things, but not really good. And I didn't feel like it was a gift until later, when I kind of figured out what my gift was, or one of them. And it's a really interesting one, but my mind really picks up on, I guess it's a little bit of a photographic memory, in the sense of like landscape or maps or like schematics and stuff. My brain just naturally picks it up like automatically. So I figured that that was my gift.
That's so cool.
And it's what it serves me in the helicopter industry when we are in the forest fighting wildfires, because my brain, I know exactly where I'm going back to the fire. If I look at the map, I know exactly where we're going to pick up water or drop the water. So it has served me really well in this industry. And in my mind, for example, I can, in my mind, see the landscape from here to Moab, here to Sedona, here to Utah. And it just, I don't know, I figured out that's what my gift was. So I would say to my younger self, you don't have to know right now, but do lots of different things, explore lots of different, I don't know, sports, art, academics. I wasn't really that good in school, but I did it and I worked hard, and I did go to college, but it wasn't what I loved, and I didn't feel like I was gifted at that. But all I'm saying is do as much as you can.
Yeah. Debbie, what about you? Founder, CEO, what would your younger self say? Would she be like, yeah, girl, I knew that was my future? Or would she be, what do you think?
Yeah, I would tell my younger self, pursue your passion. Very similar to what you just heard. We all have different skills, different interests. I don't think any of us, well, I know I would never have thought this was my exact career, like where I am today.
Yeah.
What I knew is as I got into middle school and high school, and certainly when I was in college, I was very passionate about wanting to reduce poverty. And I focused my classes on that. I focused internships on that. And that was my passion. And I had no idea where that was going to lead for a career, because there wasn't some career that was like, oh, if you're interested in, reducing poverty, this is the direction you go. But it all sort of worked out. I mean, each step of what I did got me to where I am today, and I'm doing exactly what I love doing, because I did pursue my passion. The other thing I would say to my younger self that I didn't know, it's okay to make mistakes. It is okay to make mistakes. Girls and women are so hard on ourselves. We feel we have to be at a level of perfection. We don't want to raise our hand until we're positive we have the right answer. It's okay to just lean into it, get your ideas out there. It's okay to make a mistake, pivot. There'll be failures, jump back up, and that's sort of the California story too. I mean, this entrepreneurial state built on, some of the best tech companies in the world. I mean, if you ask those people how many failures they had before they got the right tech product, the right tech company. So it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah. Katie, what about you? Did you always want to be in animation, making some of the coolest films?
I didn't, if you had asked me, at your age, if I'd be working in animation, I don't think it's what I would have thought I was doing. I did at an early age know that I wanted to do something in film, or television. I think growing up, I always saw it like looking at movies as a way to escape. I didn't quite fit in, and I grew up in LA, and I was at a small private school, and I just was not, like everyone else. And so my salvation was kind of watching movies and going to the movie theater and feeling a connection with people there. And I knew that I wanted to do something like that when I got older. And my path kind of went all over the place to bring me here. And I'm glad it did. And I'm glad I stuck with it because I absolutely love what I do and I'm so passionate about it. And I would say, there's a couple things that I wish I had known then. And I wish I had known as I kind of entered the field, which is to speak up and use my voice. It took me a long time to really harness that and not feel scared in a room because of the fact that you're this little girl, or you feel like a little girl with all these men around you that kind of come in with these big egos. And it just took me some time to find myself there. And I wish that I had just known all I had to do was speak up, and that it was kind of within me to find that.
Well, let's drill into that. I'd love to hear from all of you because we are a STEM-focused school. So a lot of STEM fields are still really underrepresented by women. How did you find your voice? Let's start with you, Naomi.
How did I find my voice? I think this is scary for me. I'm more afraid of doing this than being in the helicopter, to be honest. So I think we all have our insecurities, whether they're big or small, but I grew up in a household where my father was an amazing person. He was a Marine, and he really gave me, and my mother was an amazing woman and figure in my life. And I feel like I was able to be confident and have a voice through them because they taught me to be confident. And my dad always told me not to take any, crap from anyone. And so it really stuck with me. And I was always kind of fierce in that. But I think that's how I found my voice. And I kind of just, like I said before, tried different things. And if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. And I tried to not let things get me down and just kept moving forward, one foot in front of the other.
Debbie, when you walk into meetings, I'm sure you're pitching projects, trying to bring people on a journey with you. How probably often in a room full of men, how are you finding your voice in those circumstances?
Yeah, I think one of the ways I've found my voice, because I'm pitching concepts, ideas, a vision all the time, trying to raise money for something that has never existed before. So you have to really convince people. And if I think back to my childhood as well, it was interesting because I found my voice pretty early. How many of you have know what Title IX is? Okay, interesting. So when I was a little girl, Title IX had not passed yet.
Wow, yeah.
So there were no girls' sports, at least where I was. So in elementary school, there was no girls' soccer teams. I had to play on an all-boys soccer team. I was the only girl on the soccer team. It wasn't until Title IX passed that all schools had to have an equal number of girls' positions in sports as men's. And this is why today it's dramatically different. And but honestly, by playing on teams with boys, I had to learn and have my voice very early.
Right, and be competitive.
Because they push you around, you learn how to push back. And looking back, and I was back then I never wore dresses. I hung out with the boys, and I just, that's how I found my voice. I had to, because I loved sports. I played I just wanted to play sports all day long. And it actually has served me really well now. I speak at public forums all the time, big conferences, and so for me, that's been an important part of being a CEO and raising money and being and you're absolutely right. Sometimes I'm pitching and it is all men. So my firm, we invest capital. The funds we manage are typically about 200 million. And so one of our funds that we have invests in homeless housing in California. And we're using.
That's important. Important.
And I know we all see the tragedy every single day, probably multiple times, of encampments and the human tragedy on our streets. And we are using a whole new, using private sector money to do this. So we can do it faster, cheaper, and scalable. And, it does take being able to really bring people to that vision. And so finding your voice is really important. And again, don't be worried about making mistakes. Use your voice, get your ideas out there. It's really critical.
Well, not to mention your CEO and your founder CEO. So clearly, if you use your voice, people respond. So that's important to remember too. Don't get over the fear. Pitch your idea, say what you want, and people will listen. I think it's important to remember that.
Yeah, just touching on that, I work around a lot of men, and the helicopter industry statistics, there's more women now, but it's less than 5% of female pilots, and even less in helicopters. And most of the men that I work with are military, mechanics, pilots that come out of the military. So in these in the work environment, you have to be pretty strong sometimes, but if you are strong and you just kind of do what you want to do, everyone will respect you. If these guys love me, they'll take a bullet for me.
Right.
And you become a family and you become a team. So I always say, like, respect up and down and everything will work out.
Yeah, I love that. Katie, I'm sure you're always having to tell creatives, powerful creatives and directors no, which no creative or director wants to hear. So how do you handle that?
You say no and they don't always listen, and it's okay, because it's a lot of what I do is about a conversation. And, you may start in a place of no and saying, here's why I don't think this works. And then if a creative comes back and says, director, writer, artist, whoever it is, here's why I think it works and you're wrong, you have to be willing and ready to get into that debate with them. And you also have to be willing to put your ego aside and say, you know what, I was wrong, you were right. But then also know when you have to kind of stand your ground and kind of push forward. And just going back to making mistakes, I think that was a big learning for me, because I was scared for a long time to make mistakes. And I think that's where I would do a lot of my work kind of on the side or whispering to people afterwards or over email. And then I learned, no, the mistakes are what get us to the solution. And sometimes failure is important and you need to fail in order to get to where you need to be.
That's amazing.
And if I could add to that, because
Yeah.
I think with mistake.
Yeah, we're a growth mindset school. So that idea is really baked into how the kids learn here. So yeah, it's a growth mindset for adults.
Absolutely. And importantly, when you make a mistake, be introspective about it, not just, okay, I made a mistake and you move on, but whoa, what happened there? What did I think? Why did I make that decision? What piece of information did I not have? Or what was my misperception? So it is really important to sort of do that post-mortem of what happened there and how do was there a procedure missing? And I'm sure flying helicopters, there's probably so many procedures. Sometimes we make a financial mistake on our reporting. It's like, we're not just going to solve it this one time. We got to drill down. Like, we're in our procedures. Was it missing that someone didn't double check this? So you get to the root of the problem if you made some kind of mistake. It's really important.
It's counterintuitive, but I think what I'm hearing from all of you is that's also leadership, right? Correcting and admitting and pivoting. That's
I
Naomi?
just liked what Katie had to say about putting your ego aside, because you really have to just own it. And that's how you'll learn.
Yeah, yeah. So the theme today for our event, or one of the themes, is growing roots. We are on a new campus. So when we think about growing roots in terms of careers, we are thinking, or we've been thinking and talking a lot about community. And, you know, growing roots in terms of the people you rely on or you mentor. What does, would you say community looks like for you? Is it a group of women in different businesses, but you check on each other? Like what's your community?
Yeah, I have a group of friends who we all kind of came up together, and we get together for dinner every 4 months or however long, and we're on like a constant text chain of whether it's gossiping or someone needs advice, and we just kind of are there for each other and have seen each other kind of grow up, and it is super powerful to think about now because we're all in these big positions in our industry. And, you know, when we had met, we were just, you know, we were assistants, we were coordinators, we were dreaming of these things. And now we're here. And it is incredibly important to kind of, you know, kind of stick together, but then always be looking to help those coming up as well. Because those are going to be your peers, you know, for the long run too. And someone once said to me, like when I was first getting started, you know, you always want to be kind to people because as, what was it? It was like, as you're coming up, like you never know who someone is going to be, essentially. And that intern could be your boss one day. And
Especially in Hollywood.
yes, 100%. And also it's tiring being mean to people.
Yeah.
You know, I
Interesting.
don't get it, but, you know, I think you want to, as you kind of rise up, you want that same for those around you.
I want to hear what you guys have to say too, but I do think that's really interesting. Again, it really, the idea that leadership can be empathetic is really important. I think, again, we always think leaders are hard and remote. No, you're demonstrating empathetic leadership is what I'm hearing from all of you. That's so refreshing. Debbie, what about you? What's the sort of community building?
Yeah, one of the communities that has been really important to me is a group called Women's Presidents Organization. It's actually international, but we had a West LA group of 12 women CEOs, different industries. And so we're all confronting, even though, you know, one person may have a tech company, I'm finance, someone else maybe is, you know, entertainment industry. We're all dealing with sort of the CEO level type issues, ranging from HR problems to systems to strategic planning and sharing and helping. We're almost like directors to
right.
each other. We could bring our challenges like, oh my gosh, I've got this situation with one of my senior people, not quite sure how to handle this. So, so that collaboration, you know, finding your people, and that's at all points of life. It's good to have that group of, you know, you can be open and honest, and you know it's a safe place to share that information, and they're going to be really truthful with you and not sugarcoat things in their responses. Another community that I try to create is, you know, you heard the statistics for Black Hawk helicopter pilots. You know, we mostly manage real estate funds that invest in affordable housing for low-income families or permanent homeless housing. And if you look at all the real estate funds in the country and all the money invested in them, the amount of capital that's invested with women-owned real estate managers is only 3 of every $1,000.
Wow.
So not even 1% of the capital in real estate funds is with women-owned managers.
Wow.
So it's a very undiverse industry. I think one of the least diverse. And so we really try to proactively recruit women interns in college so they get exposed at an earlier age when they're freshman or sophomore to finance. And now we're even looking at kind of going deeper and getting to high school students and saying, this is what finance is. If you love math, this may be something that's interesting to you because you can, look at this investment. Can we generate the right rate of return? And you're helping to finance housing for homeless individuals. So you're having an impact, but you're using your math skills. So, we're trying to help sort of make the awareness about private finance for girls because it's not a traditional industry for girls and women. And when they're finishing college, it's too hard to get into it by then. You've kind of missed the boat. You need to sort of get exposed earlier. So that's what
Yeah.
we're trying to create. that
So
community.
2 takeaways. You guys, raise your hand if you have a group chat. Okay. What we're really describing is group chats. You are going to have that for the rest of your life. That is your community and your network. The next thing, take advantage of the opportunities you hear about in high school, especially to get the opportunity to work with one of these women or shadow them or whatever. Those are going to really, that's meaningful experience. So I want to hear what Naomi has to say, and then we'll open it up to some questions. But we're not done, guys. We have a while together. So I want you guys to think about some things you're dying to know from our guests. Okay, how do you community build? What's your group chat?
Whirly Girls. There's an organization called
Yes.
Whirly Girls
Oh, cool.
within the aviation community. And like I said before, less than 5%. It's probably a little bit bigger now. There's a lot more females that are becoming pilots. So pilots in general, Whirly Girls, some are helicopter pilots, some are helicopter and fixed wing, which is planes. Some do both, some do seaplanes. It's a really cool organization. And I actually have the opportunity to go see them and have dinner in Dallas on Sunday night, which I'm looking forward to. There's a heli convention exposition going on the whole week. So we all get together once a year, and it's a really good way to connect and learn from females that have been in the industry for a really long time. I have friends that are captains that fly the Blackhawks, and they're in charge of everything and dropping the buckets of water. I do a little bit different. I do the startup, shut down all the radios, fly to the fire and back. The captains are amazing. You always learn something from them. And then there's other females that are up and coming, and we do scholarship programs at these dinners, and we're able to, it's really expensive if you're not in the military to get your license. So a lot of these females come in and they really want to be pilots. And so we work with a lot of organizations to get scholarships and grants so that they can have the opportunity to do that.
Wow, that is so cool. So I know that I'd love to hear about Naomi. You helped during the Palisade fires. And when we were in the green room, we talked about that you evacuated on Tuesday, and then by Thursday you were up in the air. Walk us through
Okay.
getting that call and then having to being displaced, but then also being on the front lines.
Yeah, it was a really crazy day, as you know, I think for everyone. I live in the Palisades. We have our house. We're very fortunate, which I did have a lot of survivor guilt around that. My brother and sister-in-law lost their home, and many of my friends in the community. So the fire was on a Tuesday. I evacuated my family. They all went to Orange County. We all went down together, and I was on fire by Thursday. I was in such a frenzy to leave that Wednesday I actually was able to get back into the Palisades to get all my fire gear that was in my house. So I was in and out of there, and it was very, very scary. And I just know weather systems really well. So for me, in my mind, with all of the winds and everything going on, I think that the fire department, everyone, all the first responders did the best they could, and they did a phenomenal job. So I was on fire by Thursday. I worked mainly Sullivan Canyon. Do you guys know where Camp Josepho is? Yeah, so there's two main canyons, and that's basically where the fire kind of, it went over the ridge and then over to Mandeville. So we were able to stop the line at Mandeville. which was amazing. By Thursday, we had a lot of assets on the ground. So CAL FIRE was on the scene and all the big airplanes and tankers putting water and retardant on the fire. The companies that I work for two companies, Blue Sky out of LA, and that was the company I was working for. And we had 3 Blackhawks. We were stationed out of Camarillo. We call it LA base. So by the time we got federal funding, because we're private companies, we get all of our money from the federal government as opposed to Cal State Fire. They're full-time state employees that are always on. So it always takes a minute for the government to get going and to get the money, but we were on the scene by Thursday and getting everything, put out and not letting it spread over into Brentwood or over the mountain.
Wow. Thank you for that. Yeah. So it's probably not as dramatic, but I'm sure you've had some setbacks or surprises in your job that you've had to pivot quickly. How did you show up as a leader in those moments of sort of panic, possibly?
Definitely not the same stakes. I would
Yes,
say.
yes.
But no, I mean, stuff happens all the time that you're not prepared for. And I think something that is key in those moments is having trust in your team and those around you, that you kind of get together quickly and kind of huddle and think, okay, so we're going to do this. And then sometimes it requires you decide something at night, you sleep on it, and then coming to it in the morning because you may have a whole new perspective after you've taken that second, if you have time to take a second to think on it. There's times when that's not an option. But I will say I'm very fortunate to work with extremely talented people. And I think, the fact that we all are able to entrust in each other in those moments and really dig in is very important. And I will also say I have to give a big shout out to my boss too, Christine Belson, who I'm very lucky that since I have gotten into animation, I have only had incredible women bosses. I think, which is huge. Before that, I had worked in live action, and that was not the case. I was usually the only woman in the room and usually the lowest on the totem pole. And I will say, it's huge. It's massive when you can see yourself in those, those people in those roles, and then it kind of helps give you the courage to handle things.
Yeah. Debbie, have you had any surprises where you've had to pivot with a plan, financing falling through? I mean, I know you're dealing with cities and agencies, and I'm sure there's so much complexity. I'm sure being steady, talk about that.
Yeah, I think, one of the biggest pivots, there was a lot of them, but if I look at one of the biggest was when the great financial crisis was hitting.
Yeah.
2008.
You guys weren't born yet.
It was,
Your siblings probably were.
yeah, it was pretty scary because, we were at the precipice where we could, if there had been a run on the banks, it could have been, back to a depression.
Yeah.
I mean, we averted potentially a very different history. But I had, as literally clients were going under, and having to shutter their doors as the great financial crisis was hitting. It was existential for a lot of companies whether they were going to get through it or not, because the economy, the stock market, everything was tanking so quickly and so globally. I mean, it was not just a bad market. It was a global issue that was happening. And I had to step back and say, how do I make sure my company doesn't have to shut its doors and I don't have to lay off 15 people? And how do we get through this? And it's interesting because we had been outsourcing a lot of our accounting and financial back office and paying other providers. And it sort of made me accelerate what I wanted to do, which was develop that in-house, all that functionality. But I had it sort of on this 5-10 year trajectory. And instead I looked at the numbers and said, I got to keep that revenue in my company and not outsource it, because this is the way to stay alive. And so I canceled all those contracts, and I did sort of something counterintuitive in a crisis. I went out and hired a CFO. Because I said, I'm saving all this money by bringing it in-house, and I'll use that to hire a CFO that then does those functions, and I will be in a better place. And so we did get through it. And the decision-making led us to actually leapfrog about 5 years forward. I mean, and it was very difficult, but it kind of forced me to make decisions sooner because there was a crisis and I had to figure things out very quickly.
And saved a lot of jobs doing it. That's leadership too, right? You took care of your people, and I'm really moved by that. So I'm just curious if anyone in the room, we're going to talk some more, but does anyone have a pressing question that they want to ask? Yes, you, right there.
My question is for Debbie. So I know that you invest capital in a lot of like charities. What do you think is the most important charity to you that you've invested in?
Great.
Did everybody hear that? What's the most important charity, or Debbie will clarify this for us, that she has invested in?
Yes, so most often we're not actually investing in charity. We are, although we are achieving sort of a charitable purpose where we're helping very low income or homeless individuals. And so we're funding the purchase of the land and then the construction of the apartment buildings that families can move into. So we're funding, often it's a private business, but it's a business that's a building that's really helping those families have a home rather than living on the streets. I would say, our homeless fund in California right now, we have 835 units of homeless housing that are either under construction or tenants have moved into. And the cost that we're building these, everything all in, the land, the construction, is about $275,000 a unit. And I know that sounds like a lot, especially for middle school, but most of these units that are being built tend to be $800,000 to $900,000, almost $1 million,
Yeah.
using more government money. And we're using private sector money to do it faster and more efficiently. So that's, and I live in Los Angeles, so it's nice to making an impact in my own, my backyard, and all of my employees are, Angelina's as well.
Yeah.
One project we invested in about 15 years ago in San Antonio, actually, it's a campus, and every night there's 1,600 people there. All of them had been homeless, and they go there, they live there, and they get all sorts of services to help them rebuild their lives and then move off this campus and live independently. So that's one that's also really near and dear to me, because every day they're helping people move onward into a new life, where they're self-sustaining and independent and not living on the streets anymore. Great question.
That's amazing. Yay. You had a question. You want to go up to the mic? Yeah. Want to go to the mic and tell us your question? Yeah. Is that mic on? Thank you. Or we can hear you and we'll repeat it.
Okay, I have a question for, what's her name again? I have a question for you. How do you take movie setbacks? Like if it's setback like 2 or 3 years, what do you do about the animation? What do you do about, like, for example, the Spider-Man movie, the third movie with a setback? How do you take it, like the artist is getting setback, the animator is getting setback, the artist, the actor is getting setback? How do you take that and how do you put it back together again?
Great
I'll
question.
repeat the question quickly. So the question was, how does she help artists and creatives deal with setbacks, right? Yeah, because you have to keep their creative mojo going.
And it's interesting. So you could call it a setback, or usually it's really that sometimes movies often or TV shows need more time. They need their time to kind of get to the screen. Something's not working with the story is usually the case. And it needs more time to cook, basically. And so in that case, for one thing, it means that people have jobs longer. for the most part. But it is true, like you have to kind of figure out, okay, so we're going to be on a longer timeline, which sometimes means more money. Sometimes you have more money, sometimes you don't have more money. So then you have to make choices. And that might mean having fewer people on for longer. But you know, I think some of it is just keeping morale up, to your point, and making sure that people are always excited about the product that they're working on. I think that, I shouldn't say product because that makes it sound, you know, but yeah, that there is a real passion, because I think that that is the thing that is important, is that people maintain their passion, because you feel that on screen and you also feel it, people don't have it.
Anyone? Okay, do you want to yell your question or come up to the mic? There's a hand up in the back. Yeah, come on up. And why don't you guys, when you come up, introduce yourself and say what grade you're in.
I am in 7th grade, and my question is, what's it like to fly a Black Hawk over the Palisades fire?
Thank you. That's for you, Naomi.
Yes, thank you for the question, and it's a great question as well. I have flown over the Palisades a few times during the fire, and my brain was definitely just in work mode, so I wasn't taking it a lot. But I did get some video and pictures, and the destruction is devastating. I think now I've flown over since, and it's still just unbelievable to me to see how a fire could rip through a community so quickly. And so just, it's unbelievable. I'm still kind of in shock and still trying to process. I just 2 days ago flew over it again, took some video and footage, and my brain still actually can't believe it.
Yeah. Oh, we have some more questions. Okay, we'll go here, and then you guys in the back, people can start to line up behind the mic so we can sort of transition into a Q&A if you guys want to. Okay, oh wow. All right, let's do this. All right, okay, we will try to get through all of them, okay? Okay, what's your question?
My name is Alyssa, and
Hold on, guys.
It's Alyssa!
All right,
my name is Alyssa, and I'm in 8th grade, and this question is for Katie. So I know in like Hollywood and the film industry, you kind of have to like network and work your way up. So what are some advice you would give for people who want to do like internships and network?
I think that it's very true. Networking is extremely important. And to that, it's like, I think it's about always reaching out to people. Oh, a friend knows this person, someone knows this. When you get the internship, making sure that you have coffee with everyone there. When you are in the building, you have access to everyone, and take advantage of that. I think that is incredibly important. And then don't just stop there. Like just because you interact with someone for a portion of time, keep checking in with them. I think that is incredibly important. And you just want to maintain those relationships. And I also oftentimes tell people when they're first, you know, getting started and they're doing, you know, taking, like having coffees or general meetings with people, like always in the meeting and say, hey, is there anyone you think I should meet? And have them see if they can introduce you to someone from there so that you can kind of help grow.
And I would say that's for any industry. I mean, and we do the same thing for interns, like go talk to everybody. And I mean, we're a small company, we're 25 people, but it's like have lunch with them, have coffee, just sit in the conference room with them, ask them about their career, what they do, ask questions, use that time to really understand what people do. It's a great experience.
Hi, my name is Gabriella, and I have a question for you with finance, because I feel like a lot of people don't know what to do with the money they have. So do you have like any habits that this room should get to know to have be smarter with finance?
Yeah, I feel this is an area.
I need this advice too, Debbie. This is actually for perhaps everyone in the room.
I feel in general, the United States does a very dismal job in general of starting with young people and personal finance. how to prepare, why it's important to save, why it's important to invest, how it works so that you can retire. People are living longer. This is an amazing question because right now we have so many people retiring that are 65, 70, and they do not have enough money because they're going to live to be 90, 95 years old.
Yeah.
So it's really important for all of you as young people to begin thinking about that and to be learning about money, saving, and investing so it compounds. And so, I mean, you know, it's really critical just from a personal level.
Do you guys know what compounds means? I think I know, but I'm gonna ask Debbie to explain it.
It's making your money work for you, so you don't have to work for your money. So
Okay.
when you invest your money and it can make, whether it's 2%, 5%, or 10% a year, that dollar turns into $1.10 next year. And then the $1.10 turns into $1.21 additional, interest. And you keep putting into it. So it goes like this over 20 years. So then that dollar that you're putting in 20 years later has turned to $2,000 because it gets bigger and bigger from the interest each year.
Okay, you heard it here today.
That sounds
$1 can become 2,000 over time. All right, what's your question? You can yell if you want.
Okay.
There we go.
My name is Mika, and my question is, was there ever a time in your career when someone tried to bring you down and set you back, but like at first you didn't realize it, but when you did, how did you deal with it and how did it make you stronger?
I feel like you all could answer this. I mean, any woman could answer that.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is yes. But I think, sometimes I think the key is like not festering in it. Like you need to be resilient in these jobs. And sometimes it means learning that someone that you thought was a friend, you have to have a guard up with them. And the key is to just always kind of stay focused. But it's always happened.
Yeah, some of the advice I received from my boss, Mayor Raddon, back when I was in my mid-20s, because we needed to reform the city of LA. It wasn't working well. And he said, do not ask permission, ask forgiveness. People are going to try to tell you it won't work, it can't be done. Stop it. And if you see it needs to be done and you believe it can be done, go for it. Don't wait for someone to tell you to do it because people will always tell you it can't be done.
I love that. Naomi?
Oh yeah, just really quickly, I had a boss in one of my last careers. I worked at Levi's in San Francisco in manufacturing, and everything I did was like not good enough. But she was just culturally, that's just how she was, and I didn't understand that. So I always felt like I could never do the job the right way, but all it did was prepare me for all the other jobs that I had to be more of a perfectionist and be really good at what I do. And I learned so much from that. That although sometimes someone it might feel like they're putting you down or you're constantly feeling like you're not enough. I guess change the mindset and try to see the good in it and turn it around into a learning experience and how it can make you grow stronger.
I love that.
Hi, my name is Lucy. I'm in 6th grade, and my question is for all of you. So what did you tell yourself to keep giving you the courage to speak up and put yourself out there?
Okay. Naomi, you want to start? We'll go this way.
Sure. Where did I get the courage to keep going? I think just the way I was raised and from my childhood, I just didn't really ever have a choice. I always had to just keep going. And I think, like I was saying, having a positive mindset and not letting negative thoughts get into your mind or putting your own self down or believing any negative stories in your mind. Just put those aside and turn them into positive thoughts and just keep plowing forward. And you absolutely can do anything that you put your mind to. And I think the key thing that a lot of youth struggle with right now is patience. And it's all about chipping away. And every day you're just going to get better at whatever you're doing. And with a positive mindset, you're going to be able to do whatever you want in this lifetime.
Yes, sometimes problems can seem overwhelming. I mean, and it's the same at our level of, in our careers, middle school, high school, college, and you could just, when they compound into something quite large, what I do is I sort of step back and I break down each problem and come up with a plan. And I just take a deep breath and say, I need to just go sit. I need to think about, maybe there's 3 or 4 things that are going wrong. Or I'll go talk to my community and I'll bring those problems to them as well. Think this is, but coming up with a plan gives you something to work towards. It changes from a very negative, stressful feeling to now I have something proactive and positive that I can do to tackle the problem. So I do find that discussing it and coming up with a solution and then writing it down, so you've kind of got your roadmap on how to tackle that problem.
Something I wish that I had learned when I was much younger is to take a breath. I used to, for many, many years, get so stressed and hung up on the little stuff, like not sleeping at night. And then I learned, and it would amount to nothing. It would all be wasted energy. And it wasn't until, it kind of released that I got all that time back, and it really changed my life. And that is something I wish my younger self knew as well, going back to our first question. So I think sometimes you got to take a breath and not let the stress overwhelm you.
That's good advice. What's your question?
My name is Avery, and I'm in 6th grade, and my question is for you, Miss Naomi. How high do you fly when you're in the sky?
That's a really good question. So typically, as helicopter pilots, we can fly as low as we want as long as it's safe. But I was trained to fly at about 1,000 feet AGL, which is above the ground. So we typically fly anywhere safely from 500 feet above the ground to 1,000. Sometimes we'll go to 3,000, just depends on the job. But I would say the average is anywhere from 500 to 1,000 feet AGL.
Hi, I'm Akina, and what's your favorite thing about being a helicopter pilot?
My favorite thing about me, there's many things. I absolutely love my job and I love flying. It's very meditative, cathartic to be up there and to be flying and to seeing everything. It's a very freeing feeling. With my job, I love to help people. And so I feel like I have such great purpose in like helping put out fires or saving houses or ranches or whatever. So there's so many things about it, but I love the freedom of it.
Hi, I'm Quinn. I'm in 8th grade. This is for Katie, or really for any of you. What points do you look back on your path to get to the place in the job you are now, and be glad that you took certain opportunities or certain mindsets or just things that you did that helped you get on the path to your career, like where you are now?
I think openness is something that I look back on, because it was not a straight path for me. I worked in many different, I always knew I wanted to work in entertainment, and I worked in many different areas. I had an internship in publicity and realized I don't think this is what I'm going to do. And then I worked in TV, I worked in film, live action, and I think I'm glad that my path was a windy one. And when I look back, I think realizing what I didn't like was what got me to where I am. And I'm glad that, I had all those opportunities. And it also has helped me have a different perspective, coming into my job now.
To hear from both of you as well, the answer.
Yeah, I did a really big pivot. I always knew I wanted to focus on poverty, and I thought, oh, poverty, I'm going to work in government or a nonprofit, because that traditionally is where you would go and work. And I did. I went and I worked for Mayor Raddon after I got my master's degree in public policy, and I loved that job. And I helped create these 3 different investment funds for the city of LA to focus on investing in our poorest communities. And it was an aha moment where I said, oh my gosh, I helped get these 3 different investment funds off the ground. That's actually what I want to do for my career. I can focus on poverty, but not in government or the nonprofits. I'm going to go and engage the private sector and build investment funds all over the country. So it was just you know, through experimenting and trying different positions where I saw that's actually the path. So I'm still doing this. Poverty was still my focus, but it went a completely different direction and I started my own company.
Yeah, I have had a lot of different careers, but as a child, my dream was to do what I was doing now, but I got married very young. I went to school a little bit later. I was a snowboarder. I was a waitress for 10 years, and then I graduated and moved to San Francisco and worked in manufacturing. And then I worked in the music industry here for like 20 years, doing lots of different things with that. I've been a business manager. I've done it all. But I truly believe all of these different jobs and skills and life experiences led me to where I am today, because I was able to just like put all that aside and say, you know what, I'm going to do something that I love. And it's just turned into this amazing thing for me.
What I read in your bio is you actually became a pilot 7 years ago. So
Yeah, that's it.
you can have many different journeys. We have about 10 minutes left and we probably have 20 questions. So hopefully we'll get through them all. What's your question?
I'm Matilda. I'm in 8th grade. Is it okay if I ask 2 questions? I'll be quick.
I don't know. Are they fast, lightning questions? Let's see.
Number 1, I've been requested to ask for Katie, what other stuff have you worked on? Specifically, were you on the Netflix show Arcane?
So that was not a Sony show, but it is an amazing show. That was awesome. And man, it looked beautiful. But I did work on The Mitchells versus the Machines. I also worked on this movie called Wish Dragon, which is also on Netflix. Yes, thank you. Okay, you guys are my people. And then a show on Max called Young Love. And then before that, I worked at Disney TV and I worked on the Mickey Mouse shorts, if you guys have seen those. And so Marvel shows there, as well as a show called Pickle and Peanut, which is a personal favorite of mine.
We've got some.
And so there you go. Yeah.
And my main question was, you said that movies were a big part of your life. Is there a specific film or person that really influenced you, or a genre that you were more connected to?
Yeah, I would say just comedy in general was my everything. So which extends to like many different types of media. To me, like the experience of laughing and sharing laughter with people is just magical, and nothing is more magical than making someone laugh. And so I knew I wanted to do something around that.
Hello, my name is Bethany and I'm in 7th grade. And my question is, how do you become the best image of yourself when your company or workplace or group really needs it?
I'll have one of you answer these questions. Now, you want to go, Debbie?
Yeah, when your company really needs you, I think really communicating with everybody, the direction, why we're doing something, especially when it's tough times. It's and because people feel anxious and where are things going. So I find that really explaining what's happening with the company, the direction, get feedback, answer questions. So it's not just, you know, I have a plan and I'm doing it in isolation. Communication is so important to a successful career, company, job, I think in general. Yeah, communicating, over communicate, don't under communicate.
Yes. Thank you. Great question. Okay.
Hi, my name is Daryl and I'm in 7th grade. So my question is there anybody or anything you owe your success to? Like, what really helped you get to the point you are now?
Supportive parents.
Yeah, I was gonna say my dad.
And you talked about your
Yeah, my parents are amazing. Yeah, still are, and they're so supportive, and I feel like it's given me so much confidence.
And finding good mentors.
Yeah.
So even beyond family, just people that can be your advisor and help you with things. So it doesn't have to be parents. It can also be other people that can guide you in life.
Which I think is key. And some people think that mentors are meant to come to you, but for me, I've always sought people out. So don't be afraid to ask.
Exactly. Surround yourself with people that build you up.
Thanks, great question.
Great question.
Hi, I'm Nora. I'm in 7th grade. I was wondering if you have any tips for for beginners of animating stuff, because I kind of want to do that. So and I don't know where to start. So I'm just wondering.
That is such a good question. And I should know this but because I work on the executive side of things, I'm not as familiar with all the free programs. There are a ton of free programs out there right now that you can download to make animation. And I wish I could tell you what those were, but I'm just not as familiar with that side of things. But I do think, finding and seeking those tools and then making your own films and putting them online is incredibly important. How people get their jobs now. It's not about, I went to, CalArts, which at one time was the feeder school. It's about people who find these free tools and put their stuff out there, and then we see them and put them in.
Yeah, so many ways to find your way.
Hello, my name's Harper and I'm in 8th. I was wondering what training you had to go through in order to become a helicopter pilot, and what it was like for you your first time being allowed to actually fly a plane or a helicopter.
Really good question. So all pilots, helicopter or fixed wing, have to get their private license first. You do about 60 hours of training before you can you have to do a written test, and then you do a check ride with an examiner. No one's a good pilot at 60 hours. You have to everything's about hours in the aviation community. So the more hours you have, the better pilot you become. And let me tell you, I am friends with a lot of pilots that have 15,000 hours, 20,000 hours. They said the minute you stop learning or learning something in that cockpit, you should just retire, because every time I've been in there, I've learned something. So private license first, and then if you want to work and make money, then you go for getting your commercial license. So that's another test, another check ride. Anything over 12,500 pounds. So big jets, big helicopters like the Black Hawk, or any big jet that you fly on going on like a vacation or a holiday, that's another certificate or license. So there's different levels. It's like anything, you just keep working your way up with hours.
Practice, practice, practice. All right, we have time for one more question, and then we're gonna wrap it up. I'm so sorry, but I'm sorry, guys. You can storm I know, but you know what? This is part of your community that we're building today, so you will have more opportunities. Okay, Zaha, what's your question?
This question is for Debbie. If you weren't a CEO, what other career path would you follow?
That's a great question. There was a point about 26 years ago where I had to make the decision whether to start SDS Capital, or I was considering running for office. And I had to think long and hard about it, because I knew that if I ran for office, my focus was to continue looking at poverty and how to make a difference. But at the end of the day, I felt if I could create these investment funds, I could probably have a bigger impact on poverty. And I chose that path. But great question.
I mean, I just have to say, I see a future where we have Mayor Debbie, Katie does all the does all the ads, and Naomi flies her around. Who wants to work for that team? I know I do. Okay, we have to end this now. If you guys have any quick hits of things you feel like you want to leave these kids with, we're gonna wrap it up. You guys are gonna go to lunch, but let's just hear, can I hear a thank you? Hello. And lots of claps. Thank you so much, you guys.